In humanity's knowledge management efforts, the ongoing battle is always between order and chaos. The most common part of that battlefield is between knowledge and action. On the side of knowledge, we want to make sense of the world so we can live a life that we can be proud of. In that sense, we are the philosophers. But then on the other side of action, we want to get things done so we can get the things that we want. On this side, too much time thinking and we never actually move in the world. Our thoughts and our bodies become fragile. The thoughts become fragile because they're never tested against reality. And yet too much time striving and we easily lose track of what matters. Our hearts and souls become fragile. As the amount of information we consume daily has exploded exponentially, it has opened up a new battlefield between folders and links. Now all these battles should not be to the death. No, they should be tensions that we balance. So how do we balance these ongoing tensions in our efforts to manage knowledge in the digital age? What if there was a way to balance the efficient order of folders with the creative chaos of links? What if there was a way to balance our love of wisdom with our desire for progress? Well, I'm excited to offer one possible solution called A.C.C.E.S.S, a folder structure built from the ground up to work with folders and links together, not as an afterthought and not as a retrofit, but as a fundamental part of the design process. I believe the A.C.C.E.S.S folder structure will get you closer to having a holistic system to manage knowledge and action in the digital age. But first, let's look at how we got here, starting with Microsoft Word. Okay, check out this map. Before I show you where Microsoft Word is on it, let's talk about what we're looking at. This is the emphasis of knowledge management systems. So those two tensions that we were talking about between knowledge and action, that's where they are on the map. Check them out. Knowledge is at the top of the y-axis and then action is at the bottom. And this is a tension that we have to manage. And then same thing with the x-axis. Over on the left, we see folders. Over on the right, we see links. This is another tension in the modern digital age that we're trying to figure out how to manage. And when it comes to knowledge and action, that management, that tension that we felt, it has gone for as long as we've possibly been alive as Homo sapiens. So it's really interesting to check out that tension in the digital age and how that relates to folders and links. So let's hop in. Number one, Microsoft Word came on the scene. And think about what Microsoft Word is doing. It is a folder-based document system, and it's mainly to manage knowledge. That's the intention behind it. Not many people are using Microsoft Word to get things done. They're not using Microsoft Word to link out to a million different documents. That's just not what happens. So Word goes up here. What's next? Wikipedia. So at the start of the 21st century, Wikipedia bursts onto the scene. And what do we have with it? We have online links. And what is Wikipedia trying to do? Manage knowledge. So it is sort of, in some ways, it's the opposite of Microsoft Word. It's not personal, it's public. It's all about knowledge, just like Word, except instead of folders, it is relying on links. Are we getting a sense of how the map is working? Let's keep going. Then something else that was coming onto the scene around the same window of time was GTD, which stands for Getting Things Done, the seminal work by David Allen to help people manage information for the purposes of getting things done. So guess what that's all about? Action. So we can see that GTD is far down here on action. Now, as far as folders versus links, the system itself is a little bit more structured towards folders, but that doesn't mean that some people haven't tried to retrofit it to work with tags and links and other things. So for our purposes, GTD is right here on the map of where knowledge management systems are emphasizing their importance. Now, next up, we have the Zettelkasten coming on the scene very strong in the past decade. Where does that land up on our map? And we can see Zettelkasten is all about the link. It is all about the links. That is the emphasis when you're connecting ideas together in a Zettelkasten. Now, you can see, though, the cloud covers a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of action. And it's kind of in between both, but it's definitely a little bit more on the knowledge side, although when you are using the Zettelkasten for outputs, you get a little bit more of that action-oriented side of things. Okay, and then we had a splash of 3 different systems all around the same time, and that would be Johnny Decimal, the Paris system, and PPV. I don't have time to go into all the details here, but I'll say Johnny Decimal is very folder oriented, and it's a little bit more about knowledge, although you can still do some action with it. Para is in many ways the spiritual successor of GTD, allowing us to take those concepts and apply them in not just for action-based stuff, but also for knowledge-based stuff. But it was designed to work with folders. Doesn't mean that it can't be retrofitted, but that's definitely where the emphasis was. And then we have PPV. I'll have links to all these below in the description. PPV is something that works with Notion and databases. Databases are really hard to show on this map, but they are definitely closer to links and the dynamic aspects of linking information than they are to folders. So I put PPV here, and really it's both in action, and you can't tell with the clouds here, but it's going all the way up to knowledge as well. What are we missing? We are missing something to unify these concepts, and that is access the folder structure. And that's what I'm about to introduce to you. The access folder structure balances knowledge and action, folders and links into a dynamic hybrid system that was designed from the ground up to give you the best of all of these worlds and to manage these ongoing tensions in knowledge management. Okay, I hope that got you thinking about what is actually in the Access folder structure. And I just want to say this map is meant to stimulate thought into what is actually going on with knowledge management in the digital age. If you are better informed to how all these different systems are working, then you'll know the ones that will work best for you and for what you are trying to accomplish. So without further ado, let's jump into Access itself. Introducing Access, a folder structure for easy access to your world of knowledge. What does the folder structure look like? Here we go. You have A for Atlas, C for Calendar, C for Cards, E for Extra, S for Sources, and S for Spaces. Let's dive into each one so you can see how it applies. Number 1, Atlas. When you work with linked knowledge, you need something new. You need higher order notes. What do those notes look like? They are maps of content. They are dashboards, overviews, logs, data scopes. These type of notes that sit on top of the rest of your notes and give you a bird's eye view into all of your knowledge. That is your map of maps. That is your atlas. What does it help you do? Helps you gather, develop, and navigate your ideas successfully. And what lives here? Maps to your world of knowledge. Going to the next one. Calendar. It turns out when we remember things, we use location, maps, but we also use time. And the way that we use time with knowledge management is through the calendar folder. And the notes we save here, it helps us log, track, and review what matters. What lives here is your time-based information. So some examples that you'll see are daily notes, meetings, plans, reviews, and journals. The next folder, cards. Now cards might sound kind of strange, but in the world of linked notes, when you're trying to save ideas into their own container of thought, a note, you'll have a lot of different cards. And what cards allow you to do is just a way to say note, but it gives it a little bit more flexibility. Cards help you build and connect your ideas. So what goes in? Ideas, insights, and other things. What are some examples? Ideas, things. You could have a people cards folder section, subfolder. Concepts, statements. If you are a cook, recipes. If you're into exercise, something with physical exercises. You can make any sort of card subfolder as you need to, but all these bits of knowledge that you gather over your lifetime, they go into the cards folder. Next up, extras. Extras covers everything in between. It helps you keep your support material handy. What goes in? Support material like attachments, graphics, images, manuals, templates, hand drawings, whatever it is, extras can handle that. Next up, we have sources. This helps you build your external library of ideas. So something that we're coming to terms with in the digital age is that there's this explosion of knowledge, and there's also what we think about internally. And we don't want to confuse the two all the time. So when we look at cards, that's more of our place, where we're creating our own little nuggets of knowledge that we can link to each other effectively. But then in sources, we can save and keep outside sources and make sure that they're organized in a way that we can find quickly through folders just as easily as we can find through links. So the things that you encounter are what go in here, and some examples that you encounter that are sources are articles, books, podcasts, research papers, courses, talks, movies and TV shows that you want to take notes on, and videos. and much more. And last, I'm very excited for this one, spaces. What are spaces? Spaces are any big spaces in your life. And you should probably have 2, maybe 3 spaces at any given time in your life. So you're always going to have your life space, the stuff that you have to take care of in your personal life. And you'll also have one that's work. Now, depending on how ambitious, rambunctious, or how much time you have, you might also have a third space. You could call that your hobby space. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's your side hustle. Who knows? So you'll at least have 2 spaces. And in each space in your life, in this folder structure, you deploy maps. And so that is MAPS, maps. So within the life folder, you have 4 subfolders for your maps of content. Those are MOCs, areas, projects, and support notes. We're going to cover this in depth in the next section so you can see how it actually tangibly can work for you. So remember the tension we were talking about between folders and links? Spaces and maps are part of that solution. Because anytime you have a new space in your life, all you have to do is deploy a new set of maps. So if you have one for hobbies, you just deploy a new set of maps and you're off to the races. And that is where you're managing your actions. So look at the access folder structure, that vertical structure. And do you remember that on our map, we had knowledge at the top and action at the bottom? And if you look at the access folder structure, it is mimicking that sense. Our knowledge comes when we have our higher order maps and our dashboards. We take some daily notes. We have our knowledge cards, and it goes all the way to the bottom, 2 spaces. And in spaces, that is where all the action happens. Knowledge to action. That is the access folder structure. So to dive deeper into the access folder structure, I'm sharing 2 lessons from the Light Kit tutorial videos. The Light Kit is a free downloadable starter kit to get you exploring ways to manage your digital notes. It's been downloaded over 33,000 times, probably more by the time you watch this, and the download link is in the description below. Try it out, experiment, learn by doing, and discover the power of linking your thinking. Okay, and now to the Light Kit version of Nick to show you the access folder structure in action. Take it away, Nick. Let's introduce Access. What is Access? It is an acronym that stands for Atlas, Calendar, Cards, Extras, Sources, and Spaces. Access is the solution to tension that has been coming in 3 different dimensions when it comes to knowledge management. The first tension is between knowledge itself and action. So what are you using your knowledge for? Well, it's going to be some mixture of these 2 things. Knowledge for the sake of knowledge itself, which I find is a worthy pursuit, but often we also want to accomplish things in the real world that lead to real outcomes, real results, and allows us to survive in a world where you have to provide value and get compensated for it. So how do we balance the tension between ideas and projects? That's what's happening here. What's another tension? Folders versus links. We've had folders forever. We're relatively new with links. How do we manage that tension? And then the third tension that we're trying to manage is structure, which folders provide a lot of, versus the chaos, which sometimes we can feel in an environment completely filled with links. The intention around the access folder structure is that we get the best of all these worlds. We can manage knowledge just as effectively as action. We can use folders and the strengths that they provide, as well as links and the strengths that they provide. We can have both structure when we want it and the chaos, because the chaos is where some of that beautiful bottom-up energy comes from, where we start generating really unique insights and we can really tap into our creative selves. How does that accomplish it? Well, let's kind of twirl these down. The first place is called encounters, because generally speaking, we encounter things and then we express ourselves. In between, we do something called thinking, but mainly it's encountering and expressing. And that's a feedback loop, and we just go back and forth between those 2 things. So the first folder after we encounter something, this is where we can put new ideas, by the way. And then we have a place to access some of those maps of content. Some of them are more of the data scopes, like this essay. So this only has 1 link home, but it has all these saved searches. This essay node is actually pulling content in a bunch of queries, save searches, data scopes, all the same thing. And we can see different essays. So that's pretty interesting. What else? Scopes. These are very specific data scopes. And we looked at a few already. There's some that I'll let you discover. And so the Atlas folder is your top-down view. It's very important that it's up high too in the folder structure to allow you to have that visual sense that we're starting up high and then we're going down into something. For those knowledge management enthusiasts, we cannot downplay the importance of time-based understanding. Temporal context. How else can I say this? Well, just daily notes. We understand and we can remember things through when they happened. That was when I was in high school. That was when I was a little kid. That was when I lived in this town. And from that, we can start to understand when we had an idea and we can tether knowledge that way. So that happens in the calendar. I won't go into that for now. Cards. Cards is the great catch-all. This is where your Zettels go, if you're familiar with that term. These are where your atomic notes go, and so much more. So you can have people cards, you could have concept cards, you could really expand that into all sorts of subfolders. Or you don't have to have any subfolders. That's the beauty of links. It just depends how many folders you want. What is the appropriate amount of structure for you? Because in this digital age of linked notes, folders can still serve structuring purposes, but we still have the freedom to, whenever we want, make a link. So we get the best of both worlds. Extras is where the extra stuff goes: media, templates, PDFs, files, documents. Sources is where all that outside stuff goes, the outside world. Sources can go here. I could twirl down books and see a few books here. I encourage you to explore all of these. Then we have spaces. Very excited for spaces. Before I go into spaces, I want to make sure I've covered everything here. I always want to reiterate that Access, what separates the Access folder structure from a standard folder setup, is that it's this unique hybrid that takes into account links into a folder system. It's a beautiful thing. I'm very excited to have more people understand that we can have the best of both worlds. It's a folder-based PKM framework that also uses link-based maps of content. So we can dynamically connect notes across folders. Whoa, that just blows my mind. So that is the Access folder structure. I would like you to spend some time twirling these things down, seeing all sorts of hidden gems. You don't need folders, you can get by without, but I find that I do like a few, and I think you might be the same way. Yes, links are exciting, but we don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. With that in mind, I want to talk about the very next lesson. The next lesson is about managing projects in a link-based system using the Spaces folder, and more specifically, how we can deploy maps. And that is for our final lesson. Very excited to see you in that one, because we're going to see how we can manage action in the same area, in the same PKM system as knowledge. And we are introducing Spaces. So if I twirl down the Spaces folder, I'm going to make this even bigger. You can see that there are two spaces within this folder: life and work. Now for me, work, I'd use an acronym called LYT for linking your thinking. But what do you do for work? Can you use it as an acronym? There was a time where I had three spaces all at once. I had my life space, we all had that one. I also had my entertainment workspace when I was editing. And then I also had this one that was starting to become something, the linking your thinking space. So you can have hobby spaces with workspaces, with life spaces. And that's kind of the flexibility, the beauty of a space. You might be asking yourself right now, well, is a space just an area? Is it just like an area for projects? What is a space exactly? Well, they're for any big area in your life. And so I want to talk about that a little bit, because when I twirl one down, I think it'll make a little bit more sense. So I'm going to twirl down the life space. And here you can see how in each space we deploy maps. And maps is an acronym for MOCs, areas, projects, and support notes. So why not go back to our favorite note, home note. And I want you to see something here. In our home note, there's a projects section. So I can click on projects, or I can plan and prioritize my work life, which is the light space for me, or I can plan and prioritize my personal life. Now let's jump into my life space. And here's what I want you to see. M-A-P-S, maps. And this allows me a way to not just have areas, to not just have projects, but to incorporate link-based knowledge. And how do we do that? With MOCs. So this is the hybrid system. This is how we combine folders with links. And it's a very elegant, very simple solution. So a good example of this is, you can see my MOCs can take me to finances, they can take me to health. And then when I want to go into areas, I can scroll down a little bit further and jump into areas to plan and review, to work on financial notes, and to work on health-related notes. Now these are not notes I'm going to be showing you, but you can see what you can do here. And then last, we can go and jump into my life projects. Now I also don't have this one available to you, but you can see what that looks like. I also give you a few other ideas that you can play around with for life purposes. This won't mean much to you. It means a lot to people who go through the light workshop. But let's check out the last one, which is going to be the light space kit. So now if you are managing some sort of small business, these are maybe some areas that you might consider. First, you might want some maps of content for big areas, content creation, for whatever the big thing is that you do, for community-related efforts, team management, technical administration, and the financials for the business. These are just some basic things. You might have some other ones. What about areas? Well, things related to the light kit. I can put notes in a specific area. Same thing with the workshop. Now let's see what that actually looks like. I don't know how much I actually show everyone here, but the one I do show is the Light Notes newsletter. I think I have a few examples in here. So it's kind of funny because I have some email autoresponders here saying, thank you for opting in, and things like that. But amongst all of that stuff, we also have the Light Notes themselves. And they're all contained in a single folder, and I can move that folder around if I wanted to. And where does that folder live? Within spaces, within the workspace, and with the areas within the workspace. Pretty cool if you ask me. And we can have that for, and I do, for my flight school thing, for my light kit workshops, light events. Those are my areas. And then we also have projects. I don't include this in the light kit, but I think you can kind of get the idea about what would go into projects. So that is the beauty. Now if we go all the way back, let me twirl this one closed again. I just want you to know what's possible here. Yeah, project, just an example folder here, nothing's inside. Let's close spaces, and there we go, back to the walkthrough. For every space that's big and important and distinct in your life, all you have to do is deploy maps, MOCs, areas, projects, and support notes. And it works beautifully as a hybrid system between folders and links, and it ties it all together. Order versus chaos. That's our constant tension. Even since ancient times, these two forces stood at odds with each other. Apollo versus Dionysus. The tension is at the heart of comedy and tragedy, and oftentimes the difference is razor thin. The crease of a smile, the glint in the eye. If we see it, we laugh. If we don't, we cry. And if the tension is ever so right, we might even do both. This same tension exists throughout our living days. It's the tension between streets paved on a grid and untamed vines. There is no right way. It's the balance that we seek. And this tension doesn't just exist in the real physical world. It also exists in the world of ideas. Since before the days Hamlet experienced paralysis by analysis, we have always had the same troubles of balancing knowledge and action. And it's even worse in the digital age. And now that the common person, you and I, have the ability to digitally link ideas together, another plane of tension has opened up between folders and links. And that's why, when it comes to managing your digital knowledge, the Access folder structure finds the balance. So give it a try. It's actually meant to be broken and reshaped by you. Because one of the fundamental truths of PKM, personal knowledge management, is that it's personal. I wish you good fortune in your efforts to manage the things that matter to you. I truly hope to help you get a grip on managing the information that is important to you, because the world of information is crazy, but managing things that resonate with you can be fun. And when it is, suddenly the world is so much more interesting. So if you haven't already, download the free light kit below, open it up as a new vault in Obsidian, and use it as a playground to run around in, experiment, learn by doing, and see what works best for you. Hey, if this video made you think, whether you agree or not, please like, subscribe, and comment below. And until next time, stay connected.